How's it going, people? I'm Zephyros, and welcome back to my channel. So today, by really popular demand, I'm going to be talking about Guild versus Guild. More specifically, I'm going to be talking you through all the things you need to know when it comes to doing your Guild versus Guild attacks. All right, so let's get into it. Now, when it comes to Guild versus Guild attacks, the first and most important thing is you need to have the right attacking power, right? Yeah, your units need to be able to have that firepower to break through defenses. And the two things that really kind of determine how successful you're going to be are one, your demon soldier levels, and two, your affiliated BP. Right, so demon soldier levels, the way you raise your demon soldier levels is by farming. Right, if you look at demon soldiers in the tab, what you'll see is it will basically tell you where you can get certain demon soldiers. So the Scalekin Captain, you can get Gear Aid 1, and it's typically like your kind of tankier units, or your attacking units will be in one gear raid. Your mages and things will be in another. But so, for example, here you've got your Knight of Destruction is available in gear raid 3, and then also you'll have your Axe Slaughterers also in gear raid 3. But then you'll have mages. So you'll have the Bookkeeper who's in gear raid 1. Then you'll also get these mages in gear raid 1. Right. Then like your flyers, so your legendary flyers, Gear Aid 2, again, epic flyers will also be Gear Aid 2. So there's a bit of a pattern, right? And I think the healers are Gear Aid 1, from what I remember. Yeah, oh, Gear Aid 2, sorry. Is this here Gear Aid 2 as well? Yeah, there you go. Okay, shows what I know, right? So yeah, your healers typically will fall from Gear Aid 2. So look at what you need to work on. Look at the ones and the demon soldiers that you need to use the most, and farm. Start farming that to raise your demon soldier levels. The higher your demon soldier levels, the higher their stats, so the more damage they'll be able to do, right? And typically, most demon soldiers at level 5, they'll have this ability. So where it will only unlock at level 5. So when you get to unlock at level 5, when you get there, you'll get just an extra bonus, and a lot of the time those bonuses are really, really useful. Okay, so just try where possible as much as you can. Just farm. I know I sound like a broken record when I keep saying farm, 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 but it is really so important in so many aspects of this game. So that's the first thing, right? Then it comes to your BP, right? So having your big heroes, and there are so many heroes out there, right? No one expects you to have all the top tier BP units, right? Because it's if you're kind of limited in resources and you want to be maxing out your DPS units, yeah, that's going to take priority, right? But there are certain heroes who are so slept on when it comes to BP. A really good example is Cratch, right? He gets so much stick for being a pretty shoddy unit, right? And I get why, because as a DPS unit, he's not the best, right? But as a BP unit, this guy is so stepped on. If I put him in a Spirit Siphon, right, and then I put him, say I swap him. Oh, let's just let's put him into, let's say, my Praetus's gear. Okay, look at his BP. You can get him to 111.7k BP. This guy is no slouch when it comes to BP, right? He is so certain, and that can go even higher. If you put him into a maxed out Molten Cog, which is his exclusive artifact, if this was at 25, that would go up by another 2-3k, right? So don't sleep on certain heroes like Cratch, because he's actually really, really good for BP, right? Similarly, you other heroes like, for example, Nyx is actually not bad for BP. Valk is amazing, Setram amazing. Um, you've obviously got your exclusive lords, but if we're talking about even your Hatsuk can get to 100k plus. Abomination really good for BP. So don't sleep on these heroes. If you've got them at A5, for example, a lot of the time they can really put out good BP numbers, right? So definitely worth looking into that. Let me just put Praetus back into his gear before I forget. Um, Need to find Cratch now. Let's just do a quick filter. There you go. So yeah, don't sleep on those heroes when it comes to building your BP. Typically, when it comes to BP, you want to look at base stats. So someone who's got really high base HP, you want them in there. Obviously, the usual attack percentage, crit damage, attack speed. But then if they got really high HP, like someone like a Jira, you want them in HP substats as the additional substat, right? Whereas someone like a Valk, who's got typically quite high defense for a fighter, she benefits from a defense percentage, right? So whereas someone like a Praetus, he doesn't actually have the best kind of base defense, so he would actually benefit more from flat defense than he would defense percentage and stuff like that. So those are things just to be aware of, all right? When it comes to building your BP, and then once you when it comes to looking at your BP and your Demon Soldier, you want them both to be at a good level. There's no point in having really high Demon Soldier levels and just having rubbish BP because it's just not going to match up and you're still probably going to lack, right? And similarly, if you've got really good BP but your Demon Soldier levels are just pretty low, you're going to again struggle to break through most defenses. So that's just something to look out for, right? So now let's say you've got them both at decent levels. What's the next stage, right? So now, friendly face-off. Best tool when it comes to doing guild versus guild attacks. Now, I'll be honest, right? I'm not a big fan of friendly face-off being available during guild versus guild attack. Like when the actual guild versus guild is active. The reason I'm not the biggest fan is because I think it really gives guilds that don't have the same kind of BP levels or same kind of power levels, it actually puts them at a disadvantage, right? Because one, you're not going to be able to mimic the builds of a lot of the higher level guilds. So you're not going to get a true representation of what you're going to go up against. But two, it also means that you don't have the advantage of the element of surprise. You can't come up with clever strategies to kind of outwit a technically stronger guild because we can just put it into a friendly face off and practice a technique, find out what works, job done. Right. So I actually think it makes it less competitive for weaker guilds, which I'm not here for. For me, I think it's so important to have an element of fair competition. Right. I think if you've put in the work to build a clever defense, you should have the element of surprise. I think it's worth it. I think it's I would love that. I would love having to go up against defenses I've never seen before and have to find a strategy there and then, right? And have to just take some losses. Some of our good mates would have to throw attacks at it and see what didn't work and find a way around it and tweak it bit by bit, right? Because it gives you a defensive advantage, which I'm all for, right? But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. But look, whilst it's available, make the most of it, right? So if you see a defense that you're not familiar with, practice. Get one of your guild mates or get a friend to put those defenses up. Try and mimic the build as much as the defense as much as you can, like the highest levels of builds as you can, and then practice until you've got a kind of a fail-safe method that works for you. Okay. Also, when you're going in for an attack, have a look at and see what else has, if anyone else, any of your other guildmates have done previous attacks. Because if they've used an attack that has worked, see why. Have a look and see why it worked. Because if it is something that's kind of a BP friendly method, and you think you could imitate, use the same method. It's a proven method. It worked, so use it. Right. Um, but this is where my next point comes into kind of play. When you're watching previous attacks, you need to make sure, right, that you've got similar demon soldier levels and similar BP. All of the top guilds have a kind of they have a way to reference. They have a way to look at what your guildmates' power levels are. So if you're a guild leader, you should be implementing the same thing, right? Where you should be saying, all right, let's keep a track of where everyone's BP levels are, where everyone's demon soldier levels are, and every couple of weeks just make sure it's still up to date, right? And when new people join, get them to just put it into this like database of sorts, right? And when you're looking at attacks, understand why they've done the attack. I see it all the time, right? Where people are looking at they've copied an attack for like they've copied it to the T, but things don't always go the same way. RNG exists, right? Take someone like Ajax. His lightning can proc randomly, right? There's like I think it's like a 20-25% chance of it just procking randomly. um so it might have worked perfectly for your guildmate, but then you send your attack and his lightning procs and ends up killing a unit that wasn't meant to die or that didn't die in the original attack. You need to understand what's gone wrong there and why that unit it was important, so that you can then modify your attack. Because I see it all the time where things have happened differently, but people then just carry on the exact same strategy and then wonder why they lost, right? And a lot of the time, if they just made a little tweak to timings, or if they had just changed the order of deployment, they probably would have still got the win, but they just end up losing because they haven't modified their attack, right? So that's the next thing. So now it also comes down to understanding demon soldiers, understanding when to use different demon soldiers. So I'll give you a quick kind of breakdown of the key demon soldiers that you need to understand, right? So first one, when you're setting out tanks to bait, right, and to draw attacks, you've got two options, right? You've got your Fallen Templar or you've got your Pharaoh Guard. The reason you'll do one or the other is Pharaoh Guards have really good magical resistance and good HP. So if you've got, say, I don't know, a Boreas, Karmit, Ajax, Valk, who are all doing magical damage, you're going to send out a Pharaoh tank, right? A Pharaoh guard who's going to just absorb all of that damage and take very little damage because he's got such a high magical resistance. Whereas if you're going up against a team that's like I don't know, like a Valdron, Arrogance, Hatset, who have got like really high physical damage, you're going to send out Fallen Templars because they've got high defense, so they're really good against physical damage and piercing damage, and they're really good against, and they've got really good HP. So they're the unit you're going to send out. And similarly, when you're sending attacks out, you've got champions like um, your Knights of Destruction who have better magical resistance, so they can survive a more magical based attacking team. Whereas your uncommon destroyers, they've got really good physical defense, not the best against magical. Right, so you'd send these guys if you're trying to just take up, deal a bit of damage, but also absorb some hits as well. You need to also look at speeds. So when you're trying to get everyone to kind of hit at the same time, look at speed. So obviously, epic dogs are really quick. Uncommon destroyers are crazy slow. So you need to factor that in, right? Some of my favorite One of my favorite units is these guys, the Axe Slaughterers. Hit really hard. So as long as you've got people who are there to kind of taking a lot of the damage, you've got things like Axe Slaughterers. You've got um, your where are they? There you go. You've got your Shadowcasters who again deal really good damage, but they're a bit squishier. So you need to have other units absorbing some of the hits. Then you've got your flyers, right? So one of my favorite units, the legendary flyers, the lightning gods. These guys can take a hit as long as you time them in between ults. They need to be in between ultimates because they're not strong enough to really take too many hits from an ultimate, but they can take enough of a hit. They've got high enough HP that if you time them right, they will deal a ton of damage. And obviously, they can't be blocked, right? So they're really good for if you've got someone else absorbing a lot of the damage, or you've got healers underneath them, they can just kind of fly past and deal damage to the people sitting behind who are typically squishier than the tanks, right? So understand the strengths and weaknesses of your different units and understand why you would deploy certain things and know your timings of when you're going to deploy your shielders, when you're going to deploy your healers. Yep. So that's that. So what I'll do is I'll see if I've got some random people on the friends list who I can attack. I'm not going to show you the defenses of my guildmates because that would be essentially leaking their defenses, which I'm not going to do. Okay, so these are all mad team members. So let's see. Okay, so this person's not part of mad. Let's hope they've got. Oh, perfect. They've got friendly face off. So let's hope that they've got their defenses up. Perfect. So okay. So when I'm doing a guild versus guild attack, it's going to be really embarrassing if I lose. All right, but when I do a guild versus guild attack, I'm going to look at the composition of the team, right? So looking at this team, that's a lot of magic damage, no physical damage. So immediately, I'm going Pharaoh Guard, Knights of Destruction. I actually forgot what the team was. There was a Valk, there was a Boreas, I think there was a Mari there freezing, and then a healer and a tank. Who was the tank? Oh. Okay, so you've got Cyrus facing forward, which one of the biggest perks of Cyrus is facing him backwards so that his skeletons aren't taking direct damage and they're absorbing a lot of the damage. Elwyn, not the best healer for guild versus guild, right? So I'm actually fairly confident I'd be able to kill this Cyrus. So with that being said, I'm going to put in my axe slaughterers. I'm going to put in healers. Now, technically, I don't actually think I would need healers. I could easily do like lightning guards and this. I don't think I would need the healers, really, because I'm going to send. I would send pharaohs to just absorb two block spots and absorb a ton of damage. Sorry, take up two block spots and absorb a ton of damage. Then I'd send the knights in to one deal damage, but two also again take up two block spots. Assuming they live, I would just be able to send these guys straight through and kill the Valk. And then it's just straight sending dogs through. But I actually reckon I'd probably be able to kill the Cyrus. Right, it's going to be really embarrassing if I lose, but let's just hope I don't. So this is just to give you an example of the kind of the mentality of how you need to be looking at it. So you have to look at what the strengths and weaknesses of that defense are, right? So at 10 cost, I'm going to send the Pharaoh. Now I'm going to at 10 cost again. I'm going to send another Pharaoh. So here Cyrus facing forward means that these two blocks are wasted. I'm just going to mow straight through them as soon as the knights come down, right? So send knight. I didn't actually check my affiliations, but it should be fine. And again, at 10 cost, I'm going to send another 10. So look, these knights are just going to go hit straight through these, and Cyrus is just going to take straight up damage, right? And now at 10 cost again, I'm just going to send, and can you see, look, with the magical resistance, these guys are taking no damage whatsoever. So now my axe glorers are just going to go straight through. And the moment they go straight through, they're going to trigger the ults, and then it's just going to be bad news once these ults are down. It's bad news because now my axe glorers are going to go straight through, and once Valk is done, it's game over. Right? Wait for this ult to go through. We've enough time on the clock that we can afford to actually send through dogs. Dogs will run through quick enough, and enough of them will make it through that we've made it through. Now that was actually tighter than I would have originally hoped for, but that's the principle, right? It's you can see there that there was so much magical damage that it would have. It's almost impossible for that team to kill my tanks. So I can just send people straight through his tanks without a problem, and so it's just too easy to rush that, right? Next, we look at this team. So now this team, it's a lot of physical damage, right? So then you start thinking, okay, if it's a lot of physical damage, then what I would look at is I'd look at Templars, I would look at my Knights of Destruction. Now, the other reason Knights of Destruction are really useful here are Arrogance is actually sitting just slightly diagonal to the tank, and the AoE damage that this Uncommon Destroyer does will actually hit the Arrogance. So it just takes Arrogance straight out of the picture. Once Arrogance is out of the picture, you then have the option of sending legendary flyers through. You have the option of sending just most units through, right? So we'll do a similar strategy actually. We'll just to see if it works. I probably would need healers in this comp, but let's just go full attack. Why not? Um, this is just to show you guys the principle, right? So in this situation, there's a Silas there, right? So the Silas is 100% going to kill one of my tanks. 100%. There's no shadow of a doubt that one of those tanks is dying. But the difference with this team is that once Arrogance is down, there's no AoE damage. So as long as I take Arrogance down, I can just rush straight through as long as I've got enough units taking up the blocks, right? So we're going to lose knight. We're going to lose a Templar for sure, right? There's no doubt about that. Now we're going to send next Templar. Again, I didn't even check my affiliations. I really should be checking my affiliations because I should have put a higher affiliation on because this guy's gonna take too much damage from Silas a couple of hits, but it's fine. We'll send Knight of Destruction through just to take out Arrogance. Now Arrogance will only hit this spot on his ultimate. So again, not the best placement for someone like Arrogance, right? But it is what it is. So we'll again send that through. Now I'm going to send my axes in. Okay, just because I want to. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to hold off, right? So there. The Uncommon Destroyers have hit that spot and taken Arrogance out. So now I know there is no AoE damage. So all I need to really worry about is this Araka, right? So now is a good time to use up the blocks. We can probably send axes through again, right? And we know that Silas again is going to kill at least one or two of these units. But if I can get an axe slaughter through, there you go. That Araka is done now, right? So I've actually managed to kill Brokir. There's no AoE damage. But even if Brokir had survived, I would have had enough blocks being used to send through my dogs. Job done. Right. So it's all about looking at the opposition's team comp and just sending the appropriate units against it. Right. So yeah, that's the principle. I'm really glad I didn't lose because it would have been pretty embarrassing if I had lost those. But yeah, look, like I said, that's the principle that you should be applying when it comes to your guild versus guild attack. Now, there are a lot of nuances, a lot of strategies, a lot of timings when it comes to doing your attacks. Now, as a member of MAD, one of the ways we kind of keep our competitive advantage is we do have certain techniques against certain defenses that are very BP specific and very Demon Soldier level specific that we do actually keep to ourselves. Now, I know that's obviously not ideal for everyone else, but that is how we keep our competitive edge. So I see a lot of this rubbish about how mad boost. I see a lot of content creators who put out these um, quite honestly just stupid accusations that have no merit to them. And it's a lot of the time it's people saying, "Oh yeah, that it's not a coincidence that Mad like when we used to care about Arena that we oh, it's no coincidence that Mad are winning Arena and stuff like that." It's not a coincidence. We win these things because we put in hours and hours of testing, and quite frankly, we put in a lot of other resources into actually winning. So people who have the top one title, when back before Arena was nerfed, so that boosting could occur, that people were buying tickets. People were spending so many gems on tickets, right, to give them that advantage. That's how they're top. And it's the same thing in guild versus guild. It's not. It's not a coincidence, right, that we win every single season, right? When it comes to guild versus guild, right? It's not a coincidence that we win. We win because we put in hours and hours of testing to win, right? And obviously, we pull a lot of shards. We spend a lot of resources on farming, which is why we have the Demon Soldier levels and we have the gear that we have, right? And that's how we have our edge, as well as spending hours on testing, right? But if you look at the seasons, there's a reason we've won every time, right? It's not a coincidence. It's because we put in that effort and we're organized with our attacks, right? We are organized. We don't waste our attacks. So all of this nonsense about kind of boosting and all that. If we were going to boost, right, we're going to play Mad Dawn. There have been so many situations in the past seasons where we have played Mad Dawn and we could have guaranteed them. We could have just taken a loss, guaranteed them second place. Right, our sister guild, our brother guild, our sister guild, whatever you want to call it, Immortal Dawn. Right, but we don't believe in getting these kind of achievements if you haven't earned them. Right, Immortal Dawn. The only people they lose to are us. Right, they don't lose to other guilds. So when you get these other guilds who are kind of like, oh, they must be boosts. No, again, Immortal Dawn, they put in the effort, and it's again a group of individuals who put in hours and hours of time into making sure that they have coordinated attacks, right? So if you want to be at that same level and you want to compete, just I hate saying it, but you just got to get good. It's as simple as that, right? You need to put in the same amount of effort, and then you will be at that same level, right? So, but that's my take on it. So, if you guys, I hope you guys have gained something from it. I hope you've learned something about guild versus guild attack. If you have any other questions, feel free to DM me on Discord. Feel free to comment below. I do try to always reply to every comment I get. Give me a like and give me a subscribe because it really does help my channel. Right. So until the next video, catch you guys soon. Stay blessed.